Yeah, see, I ain't posing with the potion unless I wanna take a sip. Young pimp, makeup on my back, but do not call me slick. So emotional.
You see it. What's going on, man? It's time for a Gosu discussion. I only have the one Gosu video where I talk about why you should read it, but I don't know. I love this webtoon a lot. I think it's time for this to get covered with our monthly, aka whenever we kind of feel like remember or meet up discussion kind of thing. Right? I'm here with Alan, the family head. Talk to him.
Yo, what's going on, guys? We're about to talk about Gosu,
the master,
that old series. Woo,
woo.
Let's go.
Before I start, have you read Youngbi at all, or no? A bit of it.
I've touched on it like a little bit, but I'm not well versed, to be honest, because it was a long time ago now.
That's the thing. I have read Youngbi. I know for a fact I read a good amount, but I never knew it was even connected to Gosu until I saw Youngbi in the series.
Yeah.
And then I know from my Discord, Communist Lizard had let me know a couple times, like, yo, this is the prequel. And then Danny let me know. I'm like, yo, I did not know about that. But I thought about it and I was like, yo, wait a minute. No, that makes sense. But I had read Youngbi as a complete own thing, thinking Ghost was a complete own thing. So, like, for the time being, just assume we don't remember a lot about Youngbi and we've only read Gosu. But I'm gonna catch up and let you guys know about that soon. I'm gonna see that.
This is why I'm appreciative, because the Discord actually holds it down.
All right, they actually let me know about
y'all actually keep us honest.
Blog posts, I mean, recent events, news. They hold it down.
See, this is the thing. All right, you guys definitely talk to Naya far more frequently than you talk to me. But I'm also there. Believe me, I might be like hiding out, but I'm definitely reading all the comments. All right, I'm one of those people who, when I get those 500 comments, I actually like luxuriously go through.
I hit jump to present. I'll read shit. I'll read shit. But okay, what did you like about Gosu when he started it? First of all, this is like we're gonna talk about the recent chapters and everything, but this is like a general series discussion between me and Alan for the time being.
Oh man, okay. I'm gonna break it down for you for real. To be honest, when I was reading it, I didn't like it.
Oh shit.
See, this is the thing. Our boy Tahir, very famous Toronto rapper at this point.
Yo,
he came to me one day and was like, "Look, there's this webtoon that you have to read because you read a lot of webtoons." I'm like,
me and Alan are webtoon lords, high key.
100%.
You gotta do a stream on like our top favorite 30. You gotta do one.
100%. I think we got to. We have no choice.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Read this. It's called Gosu. It is amazing and you'll love it." I started reading it and I was like, "What is this? Like, this is not what I want." Okay, I'm sorry. And it took a long time for me. It took a long time for me to like acclimate to the series. And even now, like, I'm not 100% sure. Like, it inhabits this space in my mind where I'm not sure whether I like it or not. But there are times where I'm just like, yo, this is exceptional. This is really, really good. Like, glorious.
You kind of ebb and flow with it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%.
It'd be like that sometimes.
And then there are other times where I'm just like, dude, why do I read this? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, because there are so many things that are happening, right? There's so many like nuanced levels to the story, right? And that's kind of like what keeps me interested. But at the same time, like, the way that it's layered makes the series a little bit difficult to follow if you're not like giving it the attention it deserves. And that's hard to do when you're not sure whether you like the series, right? So there's a lot of politics that go on, right? There are a lot of characters that get introduced, right? There are a lot of abilities popping off, right? There's a lot of history to be understood, and all of that like makes for like a lot of interesting things, right? That's a lot to look at. That's a lot to be interested in. But if you're not caring about every single factor, right, and if you're not paying attention to every single facet of that, then you're missing something integral at like really important points in the story, right? So like the Youngbi Association didn't see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I didn't know what was going on. People started talking about it. I'm just like, huh? This was irrelevant? Like, what is this? So there was that, right? Then there's this whole thing going on right now with, like, the Pacheon clans and, like, the way that White Horse Squad is integrating and, like, doing all their things. So in the face of all that, like, now I'm struggling to, like, recall all the important things leading up to this point. Because really, if you think about it, I didn't really start catching up with Gosu until we'd gotten to the second season.
Yeah, I had read about maybe 30 chapters when it kind of first
Yeah.
sort of came out, and forgot about it, and it came back recently when it was deep into like second season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
Oh,
when I'm
yeah.
like, oh yeah, I love this. And then yeah, that's how I seeing. I recognize some of these names, a couple of these events. They seem very familiar, and this wasn't until I'm absolutely sure the first person was Lizard. He's like, yo, Youngbi, and I was like, yes, that's so it's all one shared universe. You know,
Yes,
like it took me
yes.
a while. I was slow. You know, I'm 8.
But honestly, you gotta love that though, right? Like, there's a lot to be said for that kind of thing because you know that the author cares about the series. If he goes out of his way to like concoct all these things, these multiple layers, right, of a story. He focuses on different characters, different times, different places, and then he unifies that all like through a growing universe, right? So you know that Gosu has a lot of quality. There's a lot of good writing behind it and coming to it, right? So I think that's what makes Gosu really interesting at this stage, at least for me personally, because personally, for me, Young is not my guy. I'm sorry. He's powerful. I like respect like what he does and how he does what he does.
But he's not one of my favorite characters either.
No, definitely not.
Yang Young's not my favorite. Okay, for me, well, I don't know. Like, if there's one thing that's generally consistent with a lot of things that I love goofiness and comedy. I'm a sucker for that shit. Like, I like anything that doesn't take itself too seriously. Yes, I have my edgelords, Berserk, Vinland Saga, and everything that's super dark and the best phase, but like, yeah, get out of that. Happiness out, fluff out, whatever. I like comedy. I like to laugh. I like to have a good time, right? So the fact that it was like, all right, avenge me, I'm dead. Like, I'm gonna fuck everybody up. Like, oh yeah, they're all dead. And like a year later, and he's like fat, eating dumplings.
Taking it easy.
I'm
Yeah.
like, but he's still broken. Like, oh my god, Gang Young, there's this huge boulder in my way. He's like, and obliterate the mountain. They're like, oh, what a nice young man. They keep walking. I'm like, yo, this shit funny. Like, I like it. It's great. It's one of the very few series that I love the action so much it brings the meathead in me to the surface, and I sealed away like the nine-tailed fox, right?
Oh, because the fighting is amazing.
Yes.
The fighting is amazing.
It's so good. And Youngbi had very great fights too. I can't remember to the same degree as this, but I know some people like Lizard were telling me today on Twitter, like, oh, the fights, I like Youngbi a bit better. I have to go back and revisit it, and we'll talk about that later another day. But the one thing I feel like they have such a great grasp of this creative team is the grasp of momentum. When you spin into a palm strike, you move into it, you know, you parry. Like, I feel like their way of conveying momentum and speed, movement is so amazing. It's great. I feel the impact of every punch, every attack, the way like Gang Young would like dodge things by the breath of like,
the way that he reacts
split
to
hair,
things,
like you see it and like, oh yeah, he got hit. But like, no, he just barely dodged it. So like the after image effect makes you think, oh, he got stabbed on attack.
Yeah.
But really he dodged. Like, I'm like, yo, panel for panel, looking into it, this shit's so beautiful. I love it. It's like cracking me. Like, the only other series I could think that is pretty much pure heads that brings this apeness out of me is like Crow. Worst.
Oh, yeah.
Like those type of delinquent Yankee manga.
Fighting.
You know, like Boya Haramichi versus Rindaman, Hana versus Guriko.
Guriko, yes.
Like, that just makes you go, yeah, like, let's go. Like, I get hype, right? But like, this one, oh my god, when they're fighting, I get hype. What's the guy with the sword? I can't remember his name. The genie with the swords, and I can't remember his name.
See, this is the thing. This is what I mean about focusing. Because when you read the series, you cannot like even rest for a second. Like, you need to be paying attention because all these people are important at some point in time, right? Like, they're all inhabiting the same world. You will see them again. Doesn't matter for how long you saw them, right? Because there's that guy, right, who has the the energy draining ability, right?
Ubak.
Yes.
Ubak, yeah.
So that guy, he shows up again and again. I didn't even think he was gonna be a major character at the time that he arrived.
He's one of my favorites. I remember him.
Because he grows on you so much.
Year-in and like Gal Young, cause she's so fucking beautiful.
That's what
She's my favorite character, the White Jade Empress.
Shit.
Oof. I think I have every single panel she's been on.
Oh shoot.
Every
All
single one's been
catalog,
saved. Like a knack.
But see, coming back to the fighting though, coming back to the fights. When it comes to the fights, I think what really gets me is that there's this almost like
So Jin-hong. So Jin-hong, this dude.
Yes, So Jin-hong. He's sick.
Yeah,
His swordmanship, because out of everybody else, like, nobody really fights with weapons technically. Everybody's
We're
usually using
seeing
their
it
hands.
more
Recently,
and we've seen
yes.
like they have like, the shit wrapped around him like armor.
Yes,
But
yes.
he's like, yo, I just use a blade. Simple, regular technique. Because even like Guy Young, she has like she can take like her cape and whip it up and like use it as a weapon. Like it's crazy, but
that's
it's
what
like,
it is.
yo,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about. So when you see that kind of stuff, like I think that's really cool. But when it comes to the fighting, there's this like almost simple quality that like the art inhabits, right? So when you have those moments where the fighting is like most intense, like that stuff really comes across well because there's almost a supernatural quality that the art suddenly starts to take on, right? Where people are like just disappearing or reappearing and like, you know, becoming smoke almost, right? Or becoming shadows.
When they're like showing off their ki and they're rumbling.
So there's this whole thing where it's like, oh my goodness, these people are more than like what they seem, kind of, right? Like, it's one thing to talk about somebody being powerful. It's one thing to show somebody being powerful, and there are different ways of doing that, right? And in this way, I feel that like you're just showing off that these people are superhuman, right, in how they do things. And it's just like they've been containing themselves within their humanity up to this point. So when you get those like key releases going on and people are, you know, glowing and the whole mountains are being eviscerated, like that's the kind of stuff you want to see, right? From like the most serious fighting like manga, right? So in this manhwa, the way that it's like beautiful, like it's everything about it is just beautifully done because of its simplicity, I think, right? That's what really gets to me.
I think people overlook how great something simple can be. Like I almost stand by the stance that on a general scale, if your central plot is simple, you can craft a great story because you can make the subplots more complex. But the literal main narrative, the main plot, the storyline is like,
It keeps everything grounded.
I want to become president. But now the complexities of rising to politics and X, Y, and Z and talking to the people, all of that stuff can be way more complex, but the central storyline is always simple. That's why I think like One Piece works so well. What does Luke want to do? Become Pirate King. What to do that? Find Raftel and One Piece. That's it. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But the story's so deep and complex because of all the little different subplots and characters and their motivations and whatnot. That's what
I mean that's part of it, but I'd also argue that like the act of getting to One Piece is
it's actually very hard to find it.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, but like just like saying like,
but
you know,
in premise, saying it is
yes,
easy.
yes,
It's very straightforward.
But for him, it's like revenge. Kill these guys. That's
Done.
it. That's really what he
That's
has to
it.
do.
That's
like,
it.
and then he can go back to eating dumplings and living his life, right?
Actually, but in that too, like we get that emotion again, right? Where it's like because he's not by himself, right? Like he has people who are around him who like care for him and like they don't want him to like go this route, right? Because we see him and the way that he fights other people, right? And when you start seeing the more capable people show up, right? Then you see that he struggles, right? To like make ends meet and like actually defeat people. And weirdly enough, like I'm not I mean, it does its thing, right? And it makes sense. But I'm not a fan of it, to be honest, in that way either. Because I know in my mind that, like, he's going to get the W. So it's fine, right? Regardless of, like, how dire they make the situation seem. And so, like, in that sense, it loses that sense of danger that I think is integral to a lot of fights. But outside of that, like, he does all this stuff. And at the end of the day, when he comes home, right, to the dumpling house, they're like, don't go back out there and don't do that. Right? And he's like, I can't, I have to do this because like that's what I've set my mind to. Like that's who I am, that's what I'm gonna do. So he has no choice really in like how his personality is and how he wants to do things. Right? It's not that he's unaware that like, oh, there are people who care for me who would rather see me not do this and whatever. Right? But he has this respect, and I think that's been coming out a lot more recently, right? Where he gets that revelation that like, oh, maybe his master was not like the nice person that like he saw all the time. Like he might have been somebody who would actually just slaughter people for you know no reason.
And it's messing with them psychologically or mentally. It's crazy. I love it.
And I like with that coming through, I feel like because who is he going to ask? He can't speak to the master because the master is gone, right? And all the people that who know the master are people who murdered him. You know, like they're the people who got rid of him in the first place and sent him into exile. Like they're trying to kill him. And he's trying to kill them. So there's like, it makes it extremely difficult to get like both sides of the story. So in this way, I think like you've opened up a mystery that might never be resolved, right? Because at the end of the day, it'll come down to like, what does like Young know about the master, and whether that's enough information for him, or whether he like, you know, let that eat at him to the end of his days.
Yep, I agree with that, 100%. And I do kind of feel like the strength of the series is carried by combat for the most part.
Yes,
which I don't think inherently itself is a bad thing, but it's one of the things that is the main appeal of it. Which isn't. I don't think it's not always a terrible thing depending on your series and what you know you're good at, what you can accomplish. Because I think it did a great job. But I want to talk about my main criticism with this series. The action within a panel is great. They cover various angles, shots, wide, close, from an angle. They will shadow it, shade it, and all stuff. The impact, the movement, everything is great. My biggest issue has always been, I felt, with, like I said, with weathers in general, they're not the greatest at diversing their paneling. You scroll just downwards. So they think it's just simple. You know, you're not turning the pages like a comic book or a manga in the sense where it's like, you gotta make the panels appeal to you in the shape and the way it should. You know, you might draw a character that from the top to the bottom, they cover 2 panels, but you know this is the first thing you read in their bubble, top bubble. Like, they're not that intricate with how they lay out the panels.
Yes.
Gosu, to me, is like a, like they offend me with this, where like almost every panel has the same amount of space between it and the exact same shape. Like rectangle to square to like 500x 400, whatever it may be, where I'm like, man, if you can just play with the paneling a bit more, you can turn this up to a whole new level. That's my main issue with the series, but it's beautiful otherwise.
Oh, 100%. Actually, I don't know if you ever read Helper or Revival High School.
Revival High School I've read. Helper I'm not familiar
so,
with.
You know that like in Revival High School, like they do this really amazing thing where they have like they have the same things, right? They have the square panels, right? But they have this moment every now and then where it's like they've done something and it's like on the page. You know what I mean? Like the panels are there, but like the action is happening like outside of the box. Right? And I think that kind of thing would definitely help a lot more with like making the combat.
Gosu with the clashes and stuff
100%.
too. Yeah.
Because like with the way they destroy mountains, like with the way like the energies explode, right? With the way they do it. Come on.
They're like zoomed out. What is this dinky little square panel where I'm like, yo, I get it. The whole mountain range is gone, but it's like if you could just enlarging it, do something a little creative with it. I don't know if it's a time a thing where there's time constraints, whatever it may be, but it's like just experiment with it a bit more, and I feel like you can just elevate the presentation of the series to a whole new level. As much as I love it.
But see, this is the thing. This is another thing that I think Helper used to do, where like they would explicitly put instructions into the literature. They'd be like, scroll slowly, so you can experience what is happening a little bit more nuanced, right? I think that kind of stuff is really sick. So if Gosu inhabited something like that, I think that would take it again to a whole new tier of like, you know, interesting, right? Because again, like I feel like that's one of the things that is holding it back. Like I didn't think about it before, but now that you've said it, like it's very clear that is what Gosu is like, and so it makes it hard to like keep your interest, right? Because you're just like, man, this is the same like square panel, and everybody's kind of like in the same shots, like doing the same man.
And you know, for a lack of better words, I don't like to throw these buzzwords people like. It's not particularly the most strategical or tactical series. It's more like the stronger person usually wins, right? Yes. Whether or not they're like holding back or not trying, or like, oh, you uncovered the secret of my technique, whatever it is. It's kind of pretty simple in that fact. But I feel like it's been transparent with that. It's been like that from the get-go. It hasn't tried to present itself as a deeply complex series where you need to think about the morality of humanity and all. You know, I always appreciate when the series is transparent. It's like, yo, what's it about? Ruby, we throw hands, everything's a gun. It's simple. You know, like, it's like, all right, I got that. Like, I like that. That's right. You don't have to particularly be such something that makes me think on such a deep cerebral level.
Yes,
where
don't do the Toriko.
yeah, don't lie to me. Don't try to trick me like Toriko or fairy tales, something like that. Don't do that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. That's when you try to lie and like, oh my god, it's gonna be this, and then it's just like, no, what would you do? Like, I just use brilliant dragon flame, go back to fairy tale attack, and I'll win with one hit, despite being beat up for 12 chapters and I have no knees. I'm like, what? You know, you'll take me out of it. My immersion is ruined.
Yes.
I'll be like, wait, what? You know,
Because it doesn't make any sense. There's no inconsistency, and I think that's super important.
and there it is.
Right? So there you go.
Gang Run was like trained by one of the strongest martial artists.
So to be expected.
So he doesn't train often these dumplings. At the end of the day, he's still constantly delivering these dumplings at breakneck speeds, jumping up, giving it to like the monk priest of that one place. Like he's just doing things. He's fighting. Like he's still pushing himself to a degree and whatnot. So it's like, yes, I could assume he's one of the strongest people, or up there, or at least closing the gap, creeping up the the incline of getting to be one of the strongest people in that verse. I could believe that. I do kind of hate sometimes where just like I wasn't really trying. You know, with the one dude, the old dude, I can't remember his name right now, but he's like, okay, I'll open my pressure points, boom, 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 and now I'm good.
Oh.
I was like, okay,
Yes.
I don't know how I really felt about that. That just felt like a little bit like, oh, I wasn't really trying. Like, I don't know about that one, but like generally speaking, I like how they handle stuff. And when people dodge things at the very last second, showing the destructive capabilities of each character.
What would have happened?
All of that stuff is, to me, has always been really, really great.
Yes, I can agree with that.
It's a strength of the series for sure.
Actually, I think one of the things that I like that they've done more recently, this is because of the devils, right? Like that have been showing up. They have these two guys, Hansa and Heibi, right? And I'm just like, yo, they're actually, at this point, they're bringing other cultures into the whole combat aspect.
It's Heibi means snake.
Because Heibi means snake in Japanese, and
and
Hansa is actually a heron in Hindi.
Yeah.
So like they're bringing together like Indian like mythos and Japanese mythos into like the whole Korean like peninsula, and I think that that's also pretty sick because like Korea has a long-standing history with like China, with India, with Japan, that like doesn't really get explored out like very much in contemporary society, but like the fact that they're willing to talk about this stuff, the fact that they're like drawing those things in, like that they're showcasing that like, oh, it wasn't just Korea, like they're like, this isn't a place where there are only Koreans and that's it, right? Like it's really trying to bring together this whole like culturalism of that time period that I think other people don't understand or they don't feel existed, right? Because at that time, like, you don't have the level of communication or social development that we have now, right? There's not that cultural exchange happening to the same degree, right? So comparatively, right, and for people who are much older, I feel like you might not notice like that, oh, there were people who are from other places here in Korea, and they had their own culture and they were doing their own things here. Like it played a role in how the culture is shaped and whatever, right? But we don't necessarily think about it in that way. We just accept like what it is as it is right now. So I think that's really cool. And I like that we're exploring like more combat styles, because traditionally, like people tend to stick to the big three, I want to say, right?
Yes.
Like you have the long lance, you got a sword, and you got bows. Game, set, match. Like that. Like people act like that's all that existed back then, right? Like there were no other tools of like combat. So for me, it was really exciting in the most recent chapters when they had that one guy who had the double spears. I was like, dude, like double short spears, like let's go. That's what I'm trying to see. Like let's do this. This is cool. So I think that's really interesting. That like they're exploring new avenues, right? In terms of like what is possible for that kind of time period. I think that too is also like in keeping with the time period. That's why the artistic style is so like simple, right?
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. I mean, like I said, it doesn't try to be more than what it is, and I can appreciate that. I like that. I like that about it. But what would you say, aside from the combat, is something it specializes in?
I mean, outside of the whole like cultural exchange that I just talked about,
You don't have to, yeah.
I think because like that's only been happening more recently. It didn't like it wasn't there from the jump. So in that regard, I guess like it's a more new thing. But I think what it is that there's this whole like I want to say almost misunderstanding about like Kang Young, because like he's out there for revenge, yes, but it's not like he's actively like looking for it. You know what I mean?
It's not
like he's not
his,
jumping out.
It's
there.
not really his fight.
Yes.
He's almost doing it as a like a appreciation, you know, kind of tribute, whatever you want to call it, to his master.
To his master,
because
who passed.
He that's not really in him.
Yeah.
But it's starting to surface recently, especially after you found that his master obviously was not the greatest person. He's going through this very deep internal turmoil where it's like, what was real, what was not real, what should I do, what should I not do? You know what I'm saying?
I think like that conflict is what makes it like is what is making it more interesting now, especially, right? And the fact that it's not really like him going out there looking for them. It's them coming looking for him once they find out that he's alive, right? That the fact that Doko Young had like what is that called, an apprentice, like there was somebody out there who has like the Pacheon house like skills, right? We have to get rid of that person because those skills are that deadly, right? So like it's a weird like reversal almost of like traditional revenge stories where like the youth in his naivety is like going out there to like, you know, settle scores and get even with all of his enemies, right? In this way, it's like the old factions are coming in and they're like, no, we gotta get rid of this guy, right? So it's an interesting, I think, twist on the whole, you know, revenge story.
I agree. And I think that it'll get better. I think when we both read Youngbi and add that to it, it'll even enhance it even more and stuff.
100%.
But do you have any closing comments? How do you feel with like the recent chapters before we kind of close it out?
To be honest, that was actually the first time that I've ever thought that like he might lose a fight.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, for a hot second.
I thought it's that one old man. That might have been the first. That was the first time I thought that.
See, because even in that situation, like I knew it was bad, right? But the fact that like there are all these other people around him and he's winning them over to his cause, that made it a little bit like more even for me. So I'm like, you know what, you're gonna be fine, right? Like even if something really bad were to happen, like they'll back you. It's all good, right? Like worst case scenario, what happens? Like they lose 1 million people and like one old man happens to just pick him up and like run off. GG, easy. But like now, like when he was like, oh man, like his skin is turning blue.
He
like
even said like, yo, I'm strong, but the guy's just stronger. I lost. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then the master like kind of walked away from him.
He's like, yeah.
And he
dude,
woke up in like a
that was actually a little bit heartbreaking for me too,
yeah.
because like the fact that like the master was like, this is all you're good for.
It's almost like despite everything, all the internal turmoil he was going through, his master turned his back on him. Like whatever, I'm out.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucked.
So in that kind of situation, like what can you really do? So like that to me like has like me actually a little bit more invested in the character than I was before, and so right now like I'm actually finding it much more interesting than how I did at the very beginning when I was like, I don't know about all this, right? But who knows if I'll be able to keep up that energy, because what direction comes next is like anybody's guess. Because this is what I mean, like we're not like, it's one thing when you know the MC is actively going out of his way to go looking for a fight, because you know at some point he's gonna fight somebody, right? But in this situation, like who knows when the enemies will show up. And so like the fact that they've got the martial arts alliance now fighting against a white horse squad, I think that's really interesting, right? So I'm excited to see where that's going to go.
Should be good. But man, Gosu great. I love it. It's fun. It's funny. I like the characters. I like I can't remember her name now. The girl from the inn. Oh god.
Oh, true.
Why did I forget her name?
Our spiritualist.
Jin. Jin. You know my girl. Gal Young, the White Jade Empress. I like Ubok, whatever his name is. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
The energy stuff. That's dope. I'm a fan of my sword dude, whose name I remember earlier, who forgot again. But it is what it is. But alright. Here's your plug.
Yes. So theintelligentsia.weebly.com. That's my blog. I talk about a lot of stuff. Right now.
A lot of things.
I mean, right now, not really though, because man's been busy with work. I got a new job, so that's been keeping me busy. But I promise I'm coming back. I'll be writing more stuff. Don't worry. I plan to start reading Dokko again. So I'm going to be starting it over from chapter freaking 1.
You
I'm going to be
dig?
doing 10 chapters at a time. It's
Let's
going to be
go.
fire. Let's get it.
Yeah.
I'm just by myself, I'm just by myself. Phantom of the South, sitting in a different realm. I don't like these rainy skies cause I'm not one to dwell. I'm just sitting in my sadness like a cry for help. I'm just by myself.